Nobody was ever supposed to read José Rizal's love letters because the pages he sent were completely blank. Imagine receiving a letter from one of the most brilliant young students in Manila and opening it to find nothing. No greeting, no poem, no signature, just empty paper, white as bone. Anyone else would have thrown it away. But one young woman inside the walls of Intramuros knew exactly what to do. She carried the letter to a lamp. She held the paper above the flame, and slowly, like a ghost rising out of the page, words began to appear. Words of admiration, words of longing, words written by a teenage student who would one day become the national hero of the Philippines. Her name was Leonor Valenzuela. Her friends called her Orang, and her love story with José Rizal was, in every possible sense, written in invisible ink. This is the story history almost let disappear. It begins in the late 1870s, inside the walled city of Manila. Intramuros at dusk, stone streets slick with rain, church bells rolling over tiled rooftops, calesas rattling past soldiers of the Spanish Empire. A young José Rizal, not yet 20, studying at the University of Santo Tomas, was boarding in Intramuros. First in the house of Doña Concha Leyva, then in Casa Tomasina, on Calle Santo Tomas. And just a short walk away stood an old, elegant house that glowed with music in the evenings, the home of Capitan Juan Valenzuela and his wife, Capitana Sanday, a prominent family from Pagsanhan, Laguna. The jewel of that household was their daughter Leonor, Orang, a tall, striking young woman with a regal bearing and a charm that filled a room the moment she entered it. Biographical sketches describe her as a stately beauty and Rizal's province mate from Laguna. In a city obsessed with appearances, Orang did not need to compete. She simply arrived, and Manila noticed. Her family's home hosted tertulias, evening gatherings where students, musicians, and young professionals traded poetry, gossip, and glances across candlelit salas. Rizal became a frequent guest, visiting with or without formal social occasions. And here is where the drama begins, because Rizal was not the only man who had noticed Orang. She had a circle of admirers, sons of respectable families, charming students, young men with decent prospects, at least on paper. But Rizal had a weapon none of them possessed: science. While other suitors sent flowers and flattery, the young man from Calamba sent blank pages. He had learned to write with an invisible ink, a simple solution of water and common table salt, a trick straight out of basic chemistry. The letters looked empty to any prying eye. A nosy servant, a strict chaperone, a jealous rival. But Orang knew the secret. Hold the page over a flame, let the heat kiss the paper, and Rizal's hidden words would bloom into view, sentence by sentence, like a message from another world. Think about what that meant. Every love letter was a private ritual. Every reading required fire. In a society where courtship was policed by chaperones and reputations could be ruined by a single intercepted note, Rizal built a channel of communication only the two of them could open. It was intimate. It was daring. It was clever. And it was working. Rizal regularly climbed the stairs of the Valenzuela home in Intramuros. He joked, he recited, he dazzled. Orang's parents welcomed him warmly. Her admirers watched him with narrowed eyes. To everyone observing, the brilliant student from Calamba seemed to be winning the favor of one of Intramuros's most sought-after daughters. But history was hiding a twist, one that even Orang could not see by lamplight. Because inside the very boarding house where Rizal later stayed, Casa Tomasina on Calle Santo Tomas, lived another young woman, Soft-spoken, delicate, a gifted singer with gentle, melancholy eyes. Her name, and you may want to sit down for this, was also Leonor. Leonor Rivera, Rizal's distant relative through an old family network, the daughter of his landlord uncle Antonio Rivera at Casa Tomasina, the girl he privately called Taimis. Two Leonors, two houses, one walled city barely a few hundred meters wide, and one young man walking between them. Many biographical accounts and classroom references tell us plainly Rizal courted both Orang and Leonor Rivera during his years in Intramuros. By day, he lived under the same roof as Leonor Rivera, trading quiet words and quiet feelings. By night, he crossed the stone streets to visit the Valenzuela home, where the other Leonor waited with a lamp and a blank page. His friends knew enough to tease him about his many sweethearts, and his reputation as a romantic was already taking shape. It was, by student standards, an open secret, and somehow it never exploded. Not yet. For a time, this double orbit continued. Orang, radiant and surrounded by suitors, kept favoring the strange, brilliant boy who wrote in fire-revealed ink. And she waited, as women of that era were taught to wait, for the words that mattered most. A declaration, a promise, a proposal. Then came May of 1882. Rizal was leaving, quietly and dangerously. A Spanish steamer called the Salvadora sat in Manila Bay, bound for Singapore and onward to Europe. Only a handful of people knew, not even his parents. His brother Pasiano had arranged everything in whispers: the money, the ticket, travel papers under José Mercado. One careless word, and the plan, and the young man himself, could be finished. The journey was more than a change of classroom. It was the beginning of a mission that would eventually help shake an empire. But before he vanished, Rizal did something that tells you everything about him, and about her. He went to the Valenzuela house one last time. He climbed those familiar stairs. He stood before Leonor Valenzuela, the girl who had decoded his secret letters, who had chosen him over safer choices, and he said goodbye. Goodbye. That was all. No formal promise, no engagement, no wait for me. After all the hidden words, the one sentence Orang needed most was the one he never spoke. Accounts of Rizal's early loves consistently note that, as with his first love, Segunda Katigbak, he failed to ask for Leonor Valenzuela's hand in marriage. Because his heart, in the end, would be tied most deeply to the other Leonor, Leonor Rivera, the sweetheart whose correspondence continued with him into his years in Europe. On May 3rd, 1882, Rizal sailed out of Manila Bay on the Salvadora and out of Orang's life. And now, the twist of the knife. The Leonor he loved most, he lost her too. 8 years later, in 1890, while Rizal fought with his pen for his people in Europe, Leonor Rivera, his Taimis, his longtime love, married an English engineer named Henry Kipping. The man who left one Leonor without a promise was, in the end, left by the other without a future. History has a brutal sense of symmetry, but the most haunting symmetry comes last. Fast forward to December 1896. Rizal sits in a cell in Fort Santiago, inside the same Intramuros where he once courted two Leonors, waiting to be executed. And what does he do? He hides his final masterpiece, the poem we now call Mi Último Adiós, inside a small alcohol lamp smuggled out to his family hours before his death. Do you see it? The boy's first secret words to Orang were revealed by a lamp's flame. The man's last secret words to his country were hidden inside one. His youthful love story and his martyrdom bound together by fire and hidden ink. History does not write coincidences like that. It writes poetry. So what is the moral of Orang's story? It is this: love that is never spoken aloud fades like invisible ink. Rizal wrote secret words to Leonor Valenzuela, but withheld the visible promise that would have defined their future. Whatever you feel for someone, say it while the flame is still burning, because silence, no matter how brilliant, is still silence, and some letters, once left blank, stay blank forever. Leonor Orang Valenzuela deserved to be more than a footnote. Tonight, she is the headline. If this story moved you, follow Pinas Unlimited, because next on Women Who Loved Rizal, we open another hidden letter from the hero's heart. Comment Orang below if you believe she deserved that proposal. Share this with someone who loves Philippine history. And never let our heroes' stories fade like invisible ink.